There's no way around it. To this point, Shedeur Sanders has not had a fair shake with the Cleveland Browns, and it needs to change. We'll explain on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso, with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready, Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome in to the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, joined today by Locked On NFL expert, the data queen, Michelle Majuk. On today's episode, we're going to talk about some big injuries in the AFC and why I think the Dolphins are completely cooked. We're going to talk about Trey Hendrickson ending his holdout, but starting his hold in. And we'll start with why I think that Shedeur Sanders has not had a fair shot with the Browns up to this point, but things may be changing. Before we get into all of that, I do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen and for being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Michelle, let me just lay this out. The draft happens. They take Dillon Gabriel. Shedeur Sanders is this weird pick in the 5th round that they trade multiple picks up to get, which doesn't make a lot of sense with all the picks they've used at the quarterback position over recent years. We get into the training camp, and at the start, he's off on a side field like a freshman quarterback, where the other 3 quarterbacks, Dillon Gabriel, Kenny Pickett, and Joe Flacco, are with the real team doing real stuff. Now, earlier this week, the owner comes out and is making statements about looking forward to Arch Manning and stuff like that, and my guy Spencer from Locked On Browns talked about that weird press conference with Jim Haslam.
The fact that Jimmy is telling you outwardly that they view it as like a 2 to 3 year process to find their quarterback and right this ship and get this figured out speaks to, and he did say, like, listen, we like our rookie group, or we want to see these guys play. We want to see what they do in the preseason. So it's not that he's not giving them a chance, but I think he's telling you, and this is the second time he's basically alluded to this process of finding a quarterback being a longer term thing and not just being resolved in one off season. I think he is telling you that they don't necessarily think the franchise guys in the roster right now, and that they're going to keep their options open going into next year where they have the 2 first-round picks to try to find the answer at that position specifically. It's the way you probably should approach it if you're the Browns, because, listen, they've been able to solve this position in nearly 3 decades. It's a 3 decades long, almost here, going on 3 decades, long quest to find a franchise quarterback since the team returned to town in 99. And they're still sort of left without any answers to it. And I'm not saying that the guys in the roster, somebody on the roster can't be it. I'm not saying it can't be Dillon Gabriel. I'm not saying it can't be Shedeur Sanders. But the way that Jimmy continues to talk about this situation, it certainly sounds like they have a realistic expectation for both of those guys in terms of where they think they're at, and that they kind of are looking longer term and thinking, maybe next year's the year we find this guy. But
so everything from the owner's public sentiment down to the way they treated him early in the process, I just feel like Shedeur Sanders is Harry Potter being trapped under the stairs right now, and the Browns need to do better and give him a fair shot. He's not even being treated like a developmental 3rd quarterback right now. He's being treated like a camp arm.
I will say, yes, in the beginning of the process, 100% he was treated like that. But I do think after his whole draft process of trying to get ready and interviewing with teams, that was a disaster, right? And he came off very cocky. So,
and then the speeding tickets.
Yeah, maybe they're trying to teach him a lesson, make him humble, right? But in practice this week, since they got their pads on, he has been the second. He has been playing with the second team, so only behind Joe Flacco. A big part of that is because Kenny Pickett is injured, which apparently he was leading first team. I don't know what the Browns are doing. Kenny Pickett's the only guy that has 0 shot of doing anything for you this year. So It's just funny. Joe Flacco, you already saw him bring the Browns to the playoffs at the end of 2 years ago. So maybe he can have that magic again. And then you have 2 young guys that you don't know what they can be. I think Sanders is a clear choice to give an opportunity this year. He's been shining whenever he does get a shot in practice, but he does have to be humbled. And it's funny that we're just listening to a clip that the Browns haven't found a franchise quarterback in a couple decades, right?
Yeah.
They had one. They just gave him away.
Right.
Baker Mayfield.
Just wasn't quite good enough, so they went and sold their soul for Deshaun Watson. And I think that made, like, obviously cloud the way I feel here, because it's like the Browns have just made so many bad decisions, especially with quarterback consistently, that I'm just like, what you were just saying. Yeah, Flacco probably gives you the best opportunity to win as many games as possible. But then it would be Sanders, in my opinion, over Dylan Gabriel, who gives you the best opportunity for high-end upside, for long-term upside. The player with the worst of both worlds is Kenny Pickett. So for them to have been favoring Kenny Pickett early in the process, like maybe that was just a, hey, Joe Flacco's an old man. We don't need to, we don't have pads on. Let's not work Joe Flacco out too much. We give more reps to the younger. But I don't know that that's necessarily what it was. We can't know that for certain. So I think anything the Browns do is questionable. And then now you get the Martin Emerson injury where he's going to be out for the entire season with an Achilles tear. And it's like the only thing that was redeemable for the Browns this year might be that defense. And their defense has got significantly worse with this because their third corner that has to come in now isn't at that level. So it's like, at some point, you got to start thinking about long-term stuff. It sounds like the owner already is. If that's the case, then Sanders is the best play.
It really makes no sense for the owner to come out and say all of this, right? And because you use 2 draft picks on a quarterback. So if you weren't trying to find your franchise quarterback this year and you're like, 2026 is our year to find our franchise quarterback, why are you wasting 2 draft picks? Find other guys.
And they traded for Kenny Pickett too. But
then also, if you're planning on starting Kenny Pickett, why, again, take 2 quarterbacks in the draft? That makes no sense. And just nothing they're doing is reasonable, or even like, and this is why the Browns are the Browns, to be completely honest. It's like none of their processes make sense in being a good team. And I think right now they'd be sitting pretty if they just cut Baker Mayfield. Maybe they would have been in the situation where they couldn't get over the hump and get to a Super Bowl with Baker Mayfield, but I do think they would be an every year contender for the playoffs. And now they're just the joke of the NFL. I think the only thing that could save them from here is giving Sanders a chance, right? And if he stinks, cool, then you can go get your quarterback in 2026 like you want to. And if he's good, then awesome. You stole a quarterback in the 5th round because he fell. He was getting talked up as a 2nd overall pick. He fell to the 5th because of personal reasons, not so much because of the play. So it just makes no sense how they're moving this season whatsoever.
This is why I didn't like their draft move. Everybody loved their draft trade. Okay, you gave up Travis Hunter for Mason Graham. I don't like that switch out. And you're saying like, oh, we have 2 picks for next year to go up and get a quarterback. Well, you traded a pick for Kenny Pickett. You drafted Dylan Gabriel in the top 100. You traded 2 picks to move up and get Shedeur Sanders. It's like, if your plan all along has been, hey, we're going to stock 2026 picks to get the quarterback, then why did you waste 3 or 4 picks this year on the quarterback position? It just doesn't make sense at all.
And then hear me out here, right? Let's say they use those 2 picks. They're bad next year. They're able to easily move up to the 1st overall, or maybe they just have the 1st overall pick. And let's say Arch Manning has a great year with the Texas Longhorns, right? He still can stay. And he's making a ton of money now in college.
Yes.
And if it's looking like he'd be going to the Browns, maybe Arch Manning is like, I'll just stay another year, because I'm sorry. Like, I'm never like, I don't like it when players are like, oh, I don't want to go to this team. I don't want to go to this team. Like, you should be able to make a team better, right? And when Baker Mayfield was looking like he could go to the Browns, he said, I want to be the quarterback that changes the culture.
Yes.
But the thing is, he did that, right? And he changed the culture, and they threw him away. So why would any quarterback want to go there and say, I want to be the guy that changes the franchise? You already shown that doesn't matter to you, and you'll throw away anyone. So if I'm Arch Manning and I'm looking like I'm going to the Browns, I'm not coming out. I'm staying with Texas.
And guess what? It wouldn't be unprecedented for a Manning to try to control their destiny. And also, freaking Jimmy has them in the same interview that Spencer was talking about, that we've been talking about. He said he doesn't even think Arch Manning is coming out, and the Haslams are kind of close to the Manning family. So it's like, oh man, the Browns, man, I just can't get over it. Just none of the wires match up. It's like the red goes with the blue and the yellow.
It's so sad, because that city deserves a good football. They've stuck with their team, and every year, they are gung ho, and there's no, like, if you ever watched a Browns game in the city of Cleveland, it's amazing. It's so hard. It's so much fun. They are diehard and they deserve a good football team. But yeah, the ownership is just terrible.
And the parties in the Muni lot and all that, which is all gone.
Everything.
Yeah, now the new stadium's happening. That's going to be gone and everything. Sad days, but
the Muni lot. The amount of times I had fun Sundays on mornings. I used to live in Cleveland. Oh, blast!
Yeah, hey, listen, I'm an Ohio boy. You talk nice about Ohio, any city, I'm going to be on board. But you're right, Cleveland is a much nicer city than maybe people would realize. But with that being said, it's definitely time to move on, giving Cleveland love. But. We're staying in Ohio, folks. Trey Hendrickson ended his holdout. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Look, folks, you're out there on the golf course this summer. You're trying to play your best. It can be difficult. All right. You start to get a little thirsty. You start to lose energy. 5 Hour Energy is the perfect choice. And now they got the 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. And hey, the 5 Hour Energy Transfusion is the perfect thing to do. And I know for me, not only just out golfing, sometimes just during the workday with everything going on during training camp, need that extra boost. But especially when I'm playing golf, it's all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. And the grape, ginger, lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that's the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. This code is not good on subscription orders, whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 into 36. Get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today. All right, Michelle, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. We talked about the Cleveland Browns situation. I didn't think Shedeur Sanders got a fair start, but hopefully things turn around. It's the right thing for the Browns as well, as we discussed. But we got to stay in Ohio, of course, travel south about 4 or 5 hours, head to Cincinnati, where Trey Hendrickson, one of the biggest stories of the NFL offseason, finally reported in, but he's not on the practice field. We'll go to our guys from Locked On Bengals to break it down.
But Adam Schefter on the Pat McAfee show talking about the progress essentially that's been made with the Trey Hendrickson deal, saying that they're essentially in line on years, on money, overall money, but there is a bit of a gulf on guarantees. It does sound like the Bengals may have gotten some guaranteed money into their offer for year 2 of the deal, but not enough for what Trey Hendrickson is looking for, as he's looking for multiple years of assurances and guaranteed money in the deal.
So it basically sounds like Trey Hendrickson wants 3 years worth of guaranteed money or some guaranteed money into that third year. I know this is very similar to the conversations we were just having about TJ Watt and his deal with the Steelers. It wasn't about, it's so much more down the rabbit hole than I guess what the casual contract conversations usually is average per year, total guarantees. But when they're negotiating these contracts, often it's like how many years, the total amount of the money. That stuff's like the easiest part to get out of. It's when are you getting the money? How much is guaranteed? And what years is it guaranteed? All of that stuff is where the disputes really start to happen. And Trey Hendrickson was at Bengals training camp on Wednesday saying that nothing's really changed. Like, we're basically in the same exact spot. But the difference is now Trey Hendrickson isn't holding out. He's in the facility. He's at practice. He's just not participating. So it's going from a hold out to a hold in. Michelle, do you think this gets us closer to getting done with this and Trey Hendrickson being out on the field?
Who knows? Just like how the Cowboys are taking too long to pay Parsons, or they already took too long. They took too long. The Bengals took too long to pay
so many
Hendrickson.
Deals.
So many deals have happened, and it's so funny how important, like, people are like, okay, wherever you got drafted, that should be gone by the time you hit, 4 or 5 years in the NFL. But it really doesn't, right? Because I feel like Trey Hendrickson is not put into the same category as TJ Watt and Myles Garrett, despite having pretty much the same stats as them, as if not better. I mean, back-to-back seasons with 17.5 sacks. He led the NFL last year in sacks and quarterback pressures. And his it's not even just about the sacks, because sometimes those numbers can be wanky and maybe you can get lucky. I still don't think it's lucky to be one of 3 players with at least 70 sacks since 2020.
He's not getting lucky.
He's not getting lucky, but also
right.
Average get off, how fast you can get off the line of scrimmage. He averages 0.75 seconds average get off since 2021. There's only one edge rusher that has averaged a faster get off, and that's Myles Garrett. The guy right after him is Nick Bosa. So he is exceptional. He deserves to get paid. And, I feel like he's not going to get paid the $40 million a year, but at least have to give him Danielle Hunter money. He's making $35 million a year this year. Max Crosby, $35 million a year. The Bengals are going to have to pay up. And Hendrickson, even though he's there, he still said he is prepared to sit out the season if a new deal is not reached. He said that today. And I think that's totally fair, because right now he's projected to make $16 million in 2025 if he plays on his current contract.
No way.
That's 23rd among edge rushers right now.
Yeah.
And he's a top 3 edge rusher in the league at the moment.
Yeah. That's simply unfair. I would not accept that either. There's no way I'm getting out on the field being treated like that after what I did the last 2 seasons and how important I am to that defense. Now, I'm excited for this to get over. I think this is a good first step to kind of getting this done. The time is ticking. They need him on the field, and they know it. They got the Shamar Stewart thing done. Now this is going from a holdout to a hold in. Hendrickson doesn't want to lose that money on the fines. I get that, but I do think this is something that gets done. It needs to be done soon so they can kind of put this behind them and start moving forward, because if Hendrickson is out there, now they have Stewart in tow. I guess, what are your expectations for the Bengals as a team this year if they get this Hendrickson deal done soon?
I still don't think their defense is going to be great, right? In the secondary, especially. But they're going to be atrocious if they don't have Hendrickson there to put pressure on the offensive line and on the quarterback. It would only be worse. But the offense should be so good, and as long as they can put up points, and as long as the defense could be middle of the pack, they don't have to be top 10 or anything like that. Just don't be bottom 10. And I think they should be a playoff team this year.
Ooh, having them making the playoffs. I got to tell you, I was spending some time yesterday going over who I think is going to make the playoffs in each of the conferences. And boy, it is difficult who I'm going to leave out. The Bengals are one of those teams that are right on the edge. I'm a little higher on the Steelers than I think you probably are. So I would, right now, don't hold me to it, listeners, but my natural lean right now is to go Steelers getting that second spot in the AFC North. I think they get 2 spots. Maybe they get 3. That's not out of the realm of possibility. But you look at the AFC West with the Broncos, the Chargers, the Chiefs. Who are one of those teams falling out of the playoffs this year to let the Bengals in? There's a lot of questions. It's an uncertain path, I guess, because I think the AFC South only sends 1. I think the AFC East only sends 1. I'm not counting on 2 in either of those. But there are 3 teams in each of the other divisions, and the Raiders could be sneaky good this year. Who knows? You know what I mean? Pete Carroll out there getting the most out of those guys. So it's just very difficult, and I actually don't think right now, if I have to give an answer, I don't think the Bengals make the playoffs. I think the defense is too bad. But again, I reserve my right to change my opinion. But do you feel confident about them making the playoffs, or do you feel wishy-washy about it like I do?
I think they're going to be a wild card team, and you're right. It'll come down to the Broncos, the Chargers, the Bengals, the Steelers. Those will definitely be the teams in question. I feel better about the Bengals making it than the Steelers. I know the Steelers always somehow sneak in, but and I do think the Steelers defense could be really, really good this year with the way they've upgraded their secondary. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think about the Steelers. I just can't imagine the Bengals failing that hard again. Last year, they started so incredibly bad and they still almost made it. That I think it'll be better this year.
That's why I know that Zach Taylor's been to a Super Bowl, but they changed the defensive coordinator last year. That's already a sign that the organization is getting, less than impatient. I think Zach Taylor is a guy who we should be considering on the hot seat if the Bengals come out and start slow. So that'll be something to watch for sure. They need to get this done so they can try to avoid that slow start. And Zach Taylor's already saying, hey, Burrow's going to play more in the preseason this year because they notoriously don't play anybody in the preseason in Cincinnati. And a lot of their fans and a lot of people locally blame that for the slow starts. Whether it's true or not, we're going to see if they play Burrow a little bit more in this preseason. But talking about some teams who I have even less faith in than the Cincinnati Bengals, One of them has to be the Miami Dolphins. And after the big injuries they've suffered lately, I have even less hope than I did before. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, spending, all in one place. In addition to just managing your money, now you can build your wealth. For me, I didn't realize just how much money I was spending on online shopping. And then I got Monarch and I realized, hey, I probably need to reel that back in, Tyler. Anyways, like being a madman with the football takes, maybe not so much with the personal spending, but also I've been getting into investing, tracking my spending, investing, accounts all in one place. Super easy. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. All right, Michelle, let's cap off today's edition of Locked On NFL. We've talked about the Browns. We've talked about the Bengals. Let's get the heck out of Ohio and go down to Florida, which is what a lot of Ohio people like to do. But we got to talk about the Miami Dolphins. Now, before we do want to thank you again for making Locked On NFL your first listen. For your second listen, you got to check out Locked On Bets. Betting experts Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers have daily MLB locks and can't miss football futures. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. The Miami Dolphins suffered another big-time injury. They lost multiple cornerbacks, including Jalen Ramsey, and now their best cornerback, who's honestly probably one of the more underrated good players in the NFL, Kader Kohou, one of their cornerbacks, they've lost him for the entire season now. And my guy Kyle Krabs talks about the patience he's going to have with the secondary because the Dolphins got ahead of this problem.
But I can at least roll with it and stay patient, knowing that the Dolphins made some infusions to the cornerback room over the last 72 hours with Jack Jones and and with Mike Hilton. And kind of frankly, they're fortunate they got out in front of some of these because you're starting to see some emergence of injuries elsewhere across the league. Arizona just lost their second significant corner contributor. It was Sean Murphy Bunting in the spring, and then it was Starling Thomas V over the weekend. That's 1,500 snaps out of the Cardinals secondary gone. Right? And then they got some young guys, and they obviously drafted Will Johnson. But you don't want to be sitting here waiting, wishing, hoping they sign a couple of players for insurance, and then a bunch of players go down across the league, and then those players get eager, and the demand goes back up, and you're on the outside looking in.
So the Dolphins did kind of get ahead of the problem in a way by solving multiple cornerbacks. But can we just be honest? With Tua and Tyreek Hill like fighting in a weird way, with the Jalen Ramsey trade and just the way that went down with the vibes around the Dolphins. I mean, Bradley Chubb earlier this offseason said they were lying about their changed culture last year. Like, I just think the Dolphins are doomed. I think they're going to be terrible this year. I think they need to blow this thing all the way up.
Yeah, I really think so as well, because we were already saying like they're that middle of the pack team. They're not going to beat out the Bills. There's a lot of concerns there on both offense and defense. And if Tua, gets another concussion, it's just a wrap. Even though I do like Quinn Ewers, so maybe now they have a backup. Who knows? I will say this secondary is crazy though, the turnover that they had, because they had 5 players in the secondary last year, cornerback and safety, play at least 200 coverage snaps. And that was Jalen Ramsey, Jordan Poyer, Javon Holland, Kader Kohou, and then Kendall Fuller. All 5 of those guys are gone. So I do like the signing of Mike Hilton. I think that's a really solid signing.
I agree.
But this whole secondary is going to be brand new, and they still have to start either Storm Duck or Cam Smith at one of the outside corner positions, because Mike Hilton, is good of a signing that is. He's a nickelback.
He's a slot,
yeah, he's a slot. So It's going to be iffy. They traded for Minka Fitzpatrick, but I think he had a couple great seasons with the Steelers and interceptions, but I think he's fallen off as well. I don't expect this defense to be very good, at least in the secondary. And then their offense, you got to hope Tyreek Hill can bounce back, but there's a mess there. So yeah, it's a messy situation.
There's just something off there. Messy Miami. I can already tell you that's going to be a title for me at some point if things go the way I expect. One thing I will say, their defensive line might be pretty good. Zach Seiler is a very good player, underrated player, completely took over for Christian Wilkins. And look, I didn't like them letting Christian Wilkins go, but after everything we've heard recently, probably a good job by the Dolphins. Bad on me. But Zach Seiler, they draft Kenneth Grant. I wasn't too high on taking Kenneth Grant as high as they took him. I thought there were other
love
options
Kenneth
for him.
Grant.
Right. I know you. That's what I was going to say. I know you love Kenneth Grant, so maybe I'm wrong about that. And in theory, him and Seiler together, very good mixture. You know what I mean? And then on the outside, Chop Robinson looked awesome at times last year. I've always loved Jalen Phillips, even coming out of college in Miami. Loved Jalen Phillips. So I think their defensive line might be pretty good, and that could be redeeming, but I just have so many questions about everything else. Do want to mention the Baltimore Ravens, too. Isaiah Likely, was it a broken foot, I do believe, going to be out at the start of the year, not going to be ready for week 1 based on most of the reports that we're seeing. I know they have Mark Andrews, but Likely was a guy who looked like he might be getting an extension soon, was maybe set to take the torch at tight end this year. With the Dolphins, I'm like, I don't think you'll be very good. I got to be honest. I don't really think this is going to affect Baltimore all that much unless he has some sort of setback and is out for the year.
Yeah, I mean, if he only misses, maybe they put him on the pup, he misses the first 4 weeks, then it probably shouldn't be too big of a deal. The Ravens, though, very much depended on their 12 personnel, where, that's 2 tight ends on the field with 2 wide receivers and a running back, 6th highest rate, and they also averaged the most yards per play in 12 personnel last year by a good chunk. The Ravens averaged 7.7 yards per play when they had 2 tight ends out on the field. The Bills were second at 6.5. So it was a massive difference maker for them last year. And Isaiah Likely had some big moments. And I do think he made the defense hesitate, right? Because he is that athletic tight end that can make a big play in the passing game. It could make an impact, but if he's back within the first month, I think at the end of the season, it's not going to make that big of a difference.
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling too. I mean, it's the Baltimore Ravens. How worried should we be? They just look under rocks and, find water boys and stuff wherever. They just always have great players, always. They're like Hydra. You cut one head off, there's 3 more looking at you. The Ravens never die. But with that being said, that's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On NFL. I am your host, the Madman Tyler Rowland, for my co-host, the Data Queen, Michelle Majuk, as we tell you every single episode. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe out there.
Bye, y'all.